Racers and Rental Cars Podcast with your host, Top Fuel Cam, Cameron Foray, and his co-host, Mr. Top Sportsman, Don O'Neill.
Keep on till they can't ignore you. Put it up for the wig and roll.
What's up, Cam?
What's going on, man? Episode 2. I think we're moving right along here. We're gonna give this another shot. I mean, we haven't screwed up so bad that they didn't kick us off the first shot, so we might as well give it a go for number 2, right?
Everybody must be like on vacation or something, the people that make decisions, because how they're letting us do another episode is beyond me.
Yeah, or nobody's listened to it yet.
Right. It's way down on the list in the inbox.
Yeah, but hey, you know what? That's just what we do. We're trying over here to, make new things happen, make fun things happen, and make everybody happy all in the same time. So.
Well, I'm not one for participation awards, but in this case, I'll take an A for effort.
That'll work. So what do we want to talk about this weekend, or this week, or whatever day it is? I don't even know what day it is. That's what happens when you have children. You forget what day it is, but that's okay.
All my days end in Y. They just all run together. That's it.
I'm just working to try to figure out how to be that retired guy where every night's a Saturday night and every day is a Sunday morning.
Not a chance. I'm trying to go after that as well, but I'm also trying to get my phone to go ding all the time, knowing that money got deposited in my checking account. So I'm just going to keep on grinding away here.
I've never heard that ding.
You need a new bank.
I do. I don't like my current bank. I've already had major issues with them last week. That's a story for another day.
Maybe it's your wife's phone that goes ding and you just don't know about it.
This is a true story. And then somebody that decides to take my wife's debit card and go ding, and at a lot of other places that I didn't pay, that I paid for it I didn't know about.
See, you need a bank with a ding.
Yeah, not a ding dong.
Yeah. For sure. Well, hey, what you said that you had an interesting weekend out testing this past weekend. What went on out that way?
Well, it's always I'm probably at a racetrack every single weekend, it seems like, and there's always interesting things. You meet people, you come across certain things and situations and people, and you meet a lot of really cool people along the way. And not necessarily last weekend. I mean, we were out there testing the A fuel car, and but this just got me thinking about something that I thought would be really cool to talk about. There was a bunch of people out there testing, like getting licenses and, a bunch of stuff. It's Formosa Raceway up in Bakersfield. They host the California Hot Rod Reunion. So there's always a bunch of nostalgia cars there, like getting licenses. And, there was a guy in a fuel altered that was doing his thing. And, but so what got me to thinking was there was quite a wide array of people and things going on out there. I mean, there was some dude in literally I thought that his car was bolted together after he took it out of the flatbed of his truck, but I mean, didn't even have a trailer. And then there's people rolling in the full on John Force setup semi. So it got me thinking, there's a lot of people that you probably deal with on a day-to-day basis with the dragstersforsale.com stuff, and then myself too at RacePack. We get these calls, or even if I'm at the track, people are like, oh man, I want to get into racing, and I want to buy a car. And it's okay, there's so many questions that can be asked and answered, and that kind of thing. And if you don't know anything other than being a fan that I want to go race, I want to go fast, how do you get into racing? What do we do, kind of thing.
Oh, that is a good point. I mean, we do get those questions a lot. And I guess if you were going to have a casual conversation with someone.
Yeah, let's keep it casual.
Completely casual. Let's not do anything formal. We're not trying to get married here to anything. But, just look at it from the standpoint of any hobby, or remind somebody about how it was when they were a kid playing a sport. You had to go. You start. Let's take baseball. I like baseball. So you had to start in T-ball.
That's the one that you score touchdowns, right?
Right.
Okay.
It depends on where you're. Maybe in California they do it that way. Not down in North Carolina. Anyway, so moving right along, you have to start out learning the basics, and I guess if you wanted to look at it from that standpoint, you can just carry it right over into drag racing. You have to buy the right equipment, whether that right equipment is competitive, has the potential to be competitive, and you're looking at it as that hobby or that sport that you're trying to learn. You've got to start with the basics. And a lot of times people just have a sum of money. They say, I want to spend 20 grand and I want to have a car that goes 450s, and you're going, that's not possible. And so, you have to have those conversations. And a lot of people just really do. They think it's like going into Dick's Sporting Goods or something, and you want to play golf. You walk back there, you pick up one box that's got all the clubs in it. You buy a pair of shoes, you walk out of the store, and the next thing you know, you should be on the Golf Channel. And that's just really not the way it works. And so I hope that that people don't get offended when you're like, hey, look, stop. Okay, you're going too fast here. We got to buy the right stuff, or this isn't safe in your car, or that's going to fail at some point. You could have a potential accident on your hand or not make a run.
That's what people don't realize is, okay, yeah, like you mentioned golf or baseball. Like, yeah, like those are really cool sports, and a lot of people do those, and people can relate to them. But when you pull in some race car situations to it, dude, these things can kill you. So I'm not saying that you can't get whacked in the head with a golf ball. Like, I mean, if you're standing next to me when I'm swinging a golf club, you usually want to wear your racing helmet. But what I'm saying is, like, if you buy the wrong thing and a bolt falls off or whatever because you bought like a total jalopy and don't check things or whatever, like, you can die. And that's important to think about. Like, people that think like, oh yeah, I just got a chunk of money, like I'm going to go racing. Well, there's whole other element to this whole thing that people don't really understand. Like, yeah, it's fun, but it's extremely dangerous.
Oh, for sure. And that's something that I guess when you start your relationship or your journey into motorsports, hopefully it's just like those sports though. You find somebody that can be like your mentor or your coach, or you, if nothing else, you just trust them. Mm-hmm. They won't steal your money. They won't overcharge you. They won't sell you junk. They'll actually genuinely look out for your well-being and your financial investment. And for us as a company, drag racing is a sport that, depending upon where you are in the country, it could be struggling, declining, or it could be growing. And for us, we sell parts and race cars to everybody. So we don't want anyone to be taken advantage of or waste money or get fed up and leave the sport. I'd much rather come over and say, hey, wait, don't do that. Let's try this. Let's spend this. What do you have to spend? Okay, well, we can't buy that, but here would be the next best option. Let's kind of go through some steps here. And you've got a couple schools out there, and there's definitely people out there that you can depend on, whether it's on the West Coast, across the country. Frank Holly, Roy Hill, Tom Baer. There's all kinds of people that have schools to teach you how to drive.
How to drive, exactly, but not how to buy. And I think the drag racing schools are awesome. I used to work at Frank Holly School when I was in college, and it's great. It gives you the fundamentals and of how to go down the track. But what they really don't teach you, like you said, is how to buy a dragster or how to do these things. And 99 or 98% of the people out in the drag racing world, or most racing world, they're all legit people and they want to help you get going. But there's a couple that you're kind of not sure about, which you live and learn like any sport or whatever. But for the most part, everybody wants to help you. But then again, there's also the people that are nice but they just want to get rid of their old junk that's sitting in their garage too. So I guess, as we start talking here, let's relate this to, you race Super Comp, or you did, and I currently race Super Comp sometimes. So let's talk about like when we first got started, like what mistakes did you make, or what mistakes I made versus, what we should have done or what we know now, because we're both, I mean, you work for a huge deal that sells dragsters and race cars and parts, and I work for a race pack, which we build data logs which help people save money, even though people think they're expensive. At the end of the day, we end up saving you guys a ton of money, because you learn so much in one run than that you wouldn't in making 500 passes and didn't know that your tires were shit.
Oh, for sure. And I can totally relate to being the guy that bought something that he should have never bought and got in over his head and had a huge learning curve. And I think, as I guess to go back to human nature, we're all prideful people. If we get, and we're competitive, right? So you get into racing, you probably were competitive at something else in life, and you can see and thrive on the competition that goes on in racing, but you're also prideful. And so to admit now, being 45 years old, that I made a lot of mistakes in my 20s.
Wait. You're 45 years old?
I'm old, dude. I'm halfway to 90.
Just kidding. Go ahead.
Hashtag true story. So, to be able now to admit it and go back, I saw my hiccups and my mistakes and potholes and bad planning and financial and everything. Totally get it. So now it's kind of like, I hate to say it, now I'm a hypocrite. And now I'm trying to keep people from making the same mistakes, right? And hashtag underlying story. This goes to my girls as well, because I try to tell them all the time about the mistakes they're making. But, I'm just a dad. Now, back to your regular scheduled program. So I want to do that and help people do the right thing for their future. And if they don't do it, it's okay. I did my best. I vocalized it to you. I tried to help you. But you're for sure. And now it's funny, all these years fast forwarded, that I'm going, man, every time I see somebody, I'm going, man, I know what that guy's going through. I know what that guy's going through. I know what that gal's going through. I see it. I lived it. And so it is important. And we can jump ahead now to the point where, I race in a class now that, it is 9 times out of 10, it's the John Force haulers that come rolling in with the big motorhomes and the stacker trailers and all this. And, I got me and my wife, we're in a 1-ton dually and a living quarters trailer, and we got a 20-year-old car. And I joke around and kind of tell people all the time, I've never seen anybody get their rig in the winter circle photo.
Hell yeah, you don't race the rig. I used to always say that.
Yeah, you don't race the rig, and you don't race your pit spot.
Yes. That'll be a whole nother discussion for another day. That's a whole nother 30-minute podcast about pit spot fighting. But
come on, you know what I mean? But I really do think that our company as a whole, as well as your company, because we sell your products and we try to tell people we're trying to help you. I really believe as a whole that the modern era of keeping people and minimizing their mistakes, I think we're in it. I think we're in the golden age of being able to accomplish that. But there are still a few of the hard heads out there.
Yeah. So I guess I'll use, when I first got into Super Comp as an example, I was able to have a set budget that I was able to spend, and I had gotten my license, and I said, this is obviously, I'm going to continue my career within racing, and I need a Super Comp car, and that's where I want to start, Super Comp dragster. But I couldn't spend $70,000 on, the top of the line stuff. Well, thinking that, okay, well, I just need something, right? Okay. And I didn't really know, that was about the time, 4-link cars and all that, they had been around, but then that was the turning point where people started going from 168 to 178. And that's 10 miles an hour you think isn't a big deal, but that's about what, $10,000-$15,000 when it comes to motor situation, or even 20. Yep. So, I had bought an operation that had a blown up motor, and the car was relatively decent, or at least I thought, right? It was a hardtail, turned out it It was a comp A dragster that it looked sick, like, but it wasn't really set. I mean, it had a wing, had front canards, and like, you know, the whole deal, and like the windows on the side, like the comp style, and but it was a screaming deal, right? And it came with all I knew was it had a power glide transmission with a Diedenberg case, and like I knew that was good because my buddy had told me that, right? So I listened to him, like, oh, that's good, like I don't need all the shields and all that, and okay, cool. So I go and I buy this thing, and it had all these parts, and we put this motor together. I had some friends of mine help us or whatever, and just kind of threw the parts together. And next thing I know, I'm out there like the third run, the thing kicks the rods out of it. And
Ouch.
I'm like, so here I forget what I spent on everything. Let's just for round numbers say I spent $20,000 on everything, which it was way less than that, but I don't remember what it was. So I just spent $20,000, and now I don't have shit.
And a flower pot.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, now I don't have another $20,000 to build this again. Like, so basically, that's what I'm getting at. Like, I thought that this was a screaming deal, and next thing you know, like, I'm screwed because now I
were screaming.
Yeah, now I have a pedal car and don't have the money to fix it. So
Yabba dabba doo.
yeah, so that's kind of what sparked this. Like, what is, in your opinion, like, what would you do if you could rewind? I want to go buy a super comp operation, and I use super comp, like I said, because we both raced it or have raced it or do race it, and also it's not really a most entry level, but it's the one that everybody's like, oh, okay, it checks all the boxes. It's a dragster. You can have a badass paint job on it. And you can pretty much drive it around the pits like it's a street car because it has radiator, and it doesn't require a lot of maintenance once you get rolling. So if you were to go tell somebody, hey, I got a $25,000 budget and I'm going to go racing, what would you tell them to do? Go buy a used car? Call somebody? Go on Racing Junk and find the cheapest jalopy you can find and build something, or what?
How about we wait till we have a little bit more money?
Yeah.
That's, and I think that's because even just take your case, your situation. So $25,000 nowadays will get you a decent rolling 4-link super comp car, right? No engine, no transmission, no headers. I mean, you'll find some that are out there that are probably, I've seen some 06, 08, 09 Mullises and Miller cars and stuff that are probably that you can get for like $19,000 to $23,000, but that's just the car. There's no engine, there's no transmission. You haven't decided to go to the racetrack yet, so you don't have a lot of window there. And if you go and find something, you're like, I'll just buy this. Well, okay, you have. I mean, really? So now what are you going to do? You going to keep it? It's you're going to work on it to try to make it better. And so instead of just buying something that's proven,
yeah, you're going to work on it. You're gonna bust your ass. You're gonna say F drag racing at the end of the day because you're so pissed off and stressed out and all that, because everybody forgets about the stressfulness of going to the racetrack for your first time and you don't know anybody and the thing doesn't want to spin over for whatever reason, or the trans brake button doesn't work and all that crap. And then you just spent $25,000 on this. And then what's going to happen is fast forward to, let's say, a year-ish later, you're going to be like, F this car, I'm buying another one. So now you're going to end up spending the same amount of money regardless, and then minus the frustration, but you've had all this frustration, and then you got to sell this other car that's just sitting there, and you're like, the hell am I going to do with this? And I can't sell it for anything because other people already know that it's a
hunk of junk.
Yep.
Yeah, and it is. And so, and not to go back onto some marketing stuff, but the whole drag racing bit, if everybody would enter it into it like they would think about a business and running a company and look at it from that standpoint. If they would start from square one like that, if somebody would have come back 25 years ago to me and said, okay, this is where you need to start at and this is the thought process you need to have, I would be so much further along in my life. I'd have so much more money, and I would be so much happier and probably have less gray hair. But nonetheless, that's the problem, is that you get involved and you just spin and spin and spin, and there's no learning in there, and you're not doing it the right way, and it's a struggle. And so I think there was I was listening to XM radio the other day, and they had this like long-winded interview with Clint Boyer, and he would, they kept saying, man, you just look like you're having so much fun, racing this year. And he goes, no, I'm not. Fun was driving a street stock that I went to the junkyard with my buddies, and we ran on Friday and Saturday night, blew it up, left it at the racetrack, and took another $500 and went and got some. That was fun. This is work. Yeah, winning's great. There's nothing better than winning. He goes, but this is work. And so I think if everybody kind of approaches it, it's going to have a level of fun, but it's work. So if it's work, then why shouldn't it be like run like a business, so that you can have the potential to have more fun than you will less work, but you're going to have to spend more money to achieve that fun and be competitive. And I think there's a balancing act there, as I'm sitting here waving my hands up in the air back and forth, that I don't think everybody looks at. I think they just like, hey, I got some money. I want to go buy a race car because I want to go fast. And then anything else after that is kind of like all the ingredients that they left out of the cake.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. Everybody just goes back and forth, and like we said at the beginning of this podcast, that there's a bunch of different ways to go racing, and we're just using this as one example of just moral to the story is spend your money the right way, the correct way. Take an extra month or two. Like, you're not going to go out there and win the world championship the first 6 months that you've gotten into this stuff anyways. Don't even worry about going to national events. Don't go to the local bracket race, cruise around, ask questions, see what's going on. Don't just buy the first thing you bought on you saw on Craigslist because it seemed like a smoking deal. Because usually those smoking deals are going to end up costing you about 3 times the amount of money. And what would you buy if you had, let's not say an endless budget, but where would you start? Like, okay, I want a 4-link dragster. Don O'Neill and Cameron Foray told me that I needed a 4-link dragster. Where do you go from there?
Got to buy a name brand one. In the other part of that, how about we relate it back to like what you and I do? So I tell people all the time, look, we're not the cheapest in the business, but we're really good at what we do, and our customer service goes along with it. So when we tell people, when we sell them something that we've bought or we go out and find it for them, it's because we trust it and we know it, and it's going to be dependable for you, and the reliability's in there. So we're trying to cut out the frustration level of not being happy and not enjoying it and spending extra money. I think that goes a long way. If someone says, oh, well, we said go buy this, you have to also remember when you buy something that you're going to call that company up, and you're going to need parts that's going that may break on it, or you're going to need help with chassis tuning setup, and so forth and so on. You have to make sure that you don't buy parts from a company that went out of business 15 years ago.
Oh, hell yeah. And that's what you talked about, buying a name brand dragster. If you buy some home built thing that some guy built in his garage, like, that's cool. Like, maybe you got a screaming deal on it, but what happens when you acquire it and you're like, well, these 4-link bars you speak of, what is that? Like, I thought this was a dragster. Why the hell is there shocks on it? Yeah. Who do you call? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's a huge thing. Like, a name brand car, like, save the extra few grand and get something that's, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to call the company and say, oh, here's $100,000, like, open ticket, bill me whatever. Like, we're talking like a used car, like you said, 06, 08, like something that at least has 4-link on it that you can maybe you got to replace a shock or whatever. Like, but at least you have the bones to something.
Oh yeah, to always improve on. That'd be no different than an engine combination or a transmission combination. Buy something that's known that you can take to an engine shop, locally, and have it freshened and have it gone through so that you start your preventive maintenance cycle. People, people don't think about this, and I start because I'm like, man, how many stories do I have about people that they went and they did something, and it's like, it broke a rod. And, my first question always is somebody when they say, oh, yeah, I kicked the rod outside of the block. I'm like, how many runs did the rods have on them? When was the last time the rod bolts were changed?
That's where you insert the I don't know emoji.
Hey, right. And everybody's going, well, it's got 300 runs on it, and the rod bolts haven't been changed yet?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So let's get into that. So we talked about car. Like, buy a decent name brand car, not 25 years old, but, relatively relative. So let's talk about motor. Okay, super comp. When I first started, everybody's like, oh, just build a 468. Like, just build. And I'm like, okay, like, whatever. But now, I mean, shit, 468, you wouldn't even put that in a freaking super street car or anything like that, So, like in my personal stuff, like, I don't like the car I have now. It doesn't have a huge motor, but it's a proven combination that everybody uses. It's a 565 with conventional heads on it, I guess they're Dart Pro 1 heads or whatever, and it goes 174 miles an hour, 890, and it's very consistent. Now, am I the fastest guy out there? No way in hell. I used to be middle of the pack, but now I'm probably the lower end of the middle of the pack. But, I can't necessarily afford a $45,000 super comp engine to go 188 miles an hour. But I'm at least not a sitting duck at 155 with a 400. Yeah, with a 468, because I was that guy once too. So,
well, no, and that's for sure, because but people don't think about this, right? So I got this engine. It's I bought this used 632. It's got 18-degree heads on it. Guy used to run it in Top Sportsman, and I'm going to put it in a super comp car. I got a screaming deal on it. Okay, that happens all the time, right? Because everybody at the top, we build bigger, we want to go faster. Our stuff slowly comes down the funnel into the other classes. Here's the thing: the super comp people don't ever think about when they do that, when they're buying used stuff like that. So we have a maintenance program. 100 runs, it gets lifters, it gets valve springs. Sometimes it gets valves, because you're putting such a strain on the valve train. Super comp guys make way more runs than Top Sportsman guys do. Way more. And so they don't think about the maintenance for it. Go buy that 18-degree head. No problem. And then 100 runs in, you're like, oh, broke a valve spring. You're like, okay, probably need to change the cam in it so it's not as radical and it's more consistent and so forth.
That's one thing that the reason why I stick with my 565, because, with driving other things, like, I want something that's consistent. I can pull it out of the trailer, run the valves, and go. I don't have to be like, oh, dude, like, I got to change valve springs, all that. Like, that's not my MO when I go super comp racing. Like, I'm interested in going and then getting my ass waxed on the starting line or at the top end and then going straight to the cooler. Because that's when I like to spend the time with my family and that kind of thing. When I'm doing the other stuff, that's, super comp is my outlet to just hang out. So, like, as long as it's maintenance and correctly before I get there, I'm not interested in chasing all that stuff.
Oh man, you sound like I got two comments. So J.R. Lobner, right? He runs Top Sportsman. He's been setting the world on fire, and we poke fun at each other always through text message and stuff. And I told him, I was like, you need to spray that thing. It only goes 740s. What it's big old motor. Let's put some jet in it. Let's spray. Let's go. And he's like, look, I don't have time with work and my kids to come home and have to be putting pistons or doing crazy maintenance on this car. I need it to go in a trailer at the racetrack in one piece and come the next time it comes out of the trailer, I need it to be in one piece. I got other stuff to do. And that is the perfect picture of someone they're out there, they're being competitive, they're winning, they've got a proven combination, it turns on the wind light. It's low maintenance. Yep. And then my next story is, I remember when we started running Top Sportsman, my wife, she knew me with Super Comp or the dragster. Come back from a run, enter the running computer, download a run, put the battery charger on it, put fuel in it, and sit around, wait for the next call, right?
Eat a sandwich.
eat a sandwich, totally easy. We started running Top Sports, and she was like, holy cow, this is work. We got bottles to change, parachutes to pack, spark plugs to change. She's like, oh, my God, some days
Parachutes
I
to
miss.
pack. I've never even pulled the chute on my supercar. I don't know what it looks like, to be honest.
It's the square thing that they shove in a bag, and it's got a spring. Yeah, but anyway, I totally get it. And people don't think about those things when it comes to getting started in racing.
Well, see, what people don't, like, for me, for instance, like, my wife and I, we live in a condo, right? So I can't keep a dragster, a motorhome, a 32-foot trailer in our garage, right? So I have to have store it. I keep it all at my grandparents' house, but that my grandparents live an hour and a half away from me. So in order for me to go work on the damn thing, I got to find a Saturday that I'm actually home for once. That
You're supposed to be racing on Saturdays.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or I'm working for RacePack doing tech support or a marketing activity or whatever. So time is limited, and then the days that I'm not at a racetrack, I'd like to spend it with my family. Luckily, my wife is awesome enough to where she wants to go work on the car too, but again, we're driving an hour and a half there, pull out the trailer, get the car out of the garage, like work on it, do all that stuff, and it's like, just that is an event in itself. So if I had to do that 4 times a week, and I'm not afraid of work by any means, but what I'm saying is with the A fuel, the top fuel stuff, that's where the focus would be when it comes to maintenance and working, grinding and doing all that stuff. And so yeah, when we go bracket race, if you buy the right stuff correctly the first time, you generally wouldn't. You just do your basic maintenance, make sure you be preventative, be on top of it, oil, valves, all that stuff. Then you can go have fun with your family, and that's what it's all about. I mean,
for
at least
sure.
For me.
For sure. No, and I guess we're really looking at it. We just keep talking about, drag racing, which everybody's probably thinking just mainly NHRA, but really it's any type of level. Even if you're bracket racing, I remember the days people used to write articles about trailer maintenance and servicing axle bearings and, just all the stuff that people take for granted so that you're not stranded on the side of the highway and so forth and so on to allow yourself to have an enjoyable experience of racing. Because there's what's that mean? People are they're smiling, heading to the racetrack, and then the
Dumb and Dumber one. I love that
one. Right, and then it's the picture of their faces coming back from the racetrack, right? And it's like, are you kidding me? So you want to try to minimize that so that you can have something to smile about. Even if all it is that you don't have to pull the car out of the trailer this week to do anything. That can be something to smile about.
100%. I agree totally. So basically, that's, like I said, we just wanted to cover a little bit about, this whole racing thing as a whole. It's not just, oh, hey, I just bought this, let's roll, put some gas in it and go. There's things that we recommend. And again, we're no world champions and that type of thing. I'm just telling you, and along with Don, we're just doing this off our own personal experience.
Wait a minute. I am a world champion in making mistakes. I'm taking that title. I got that title. I can tell you what not to do. Anybody who wants to challenge me for the what not to do title, please contact me at don@dragstersforsale.com and we'll have a conversation. But I still think I got the title. And as soon as I can get it trademarked, I will own that.
Yeah, I go to the racetrack and try to learn every single time how to lose a race or how to lose at drag racing. There's a lot of that before it comes to winning, and just be ready for that. And as you're getting ready to embark on your motorsports thing, but I'll leave this by saying, if it wasn't for racing, I don't know why I would exist. I met my wife through racing. I've met so many great friends, and this is my life. This is what I do. And whether it's racing super comp, top fuel, A fuel, funny cars, whatever, I'm just down to race. And if somebody wants to hit me up, I'm just going to throw out a little plug here. I'm looking for an S10. I really want a foot brake S10. I don't know why. I just think they're really badass. But anyway, but it's all fun. So take it as just enjoy yourself at the racetrack. Don't you're not going to be John Force, Tony Schumacher the first day you're out there. So enjoy it.
What? Are you sure?
Maybe some people, but not me. So
me neither. As I shake my head, nope.
Yeah. So Don, I wanted to thank you for your expertise on this sort of thing. And, if you guys are ever looking for a dragster or whatever, like dragstersforsale.com, like they're always up on the know-how and whatnot. And if you guys are ever interested in a data logger for that thing to learn a lot more in one run than you would in 20 runs, feel free to give Racepack a call too. I mean, they data loggers, dash instrumentation and things like that. Or even if you want just some questions answered, hit up Don, myself, whatever. Like, even if it's not even about Racepack or a dragster. I mean, hell, Don doesn't even drive a dragster anymore. He drives a door car. I've never driven a car with doors other than like my street car. But funny cars don't have doors. But I'm waiting for the opportunity to drive a pro mod. So
way cooler than driving dragsters. Just saying. There's so much stuff going on. It's so way cool. Stuff's vibrating, shaking, rattling. It's making all kinds of noises. You're trying to see out a window at 200 miles an hour and judge the finish line. Way cooler than these guys that are driving dragsters. They just barely turn their head and look, and there's nothing blocking their view. And I'm just, whatever. I get it.
I'm not gonna disagree with you, but we will leave it on that because we will bring this debate up in maybe the next episode or in an upcoming episode about what's better, door cars or dragsters or drifting cars or
numerous times this discussion will come back up.
Circle track cars, roundy round. I'm interested in driving a dirt modified if anybody's out there for one of those. But
all you gotta do is what? Cut the wheel, just keep the wheel turned to the right the whole entire time.
Turn right to go left.
I actually know somebody down there in North Carolina, old David Taylor. He's one of those dirt track guys. Got late model cars. Works for VP. He's one of the distributors in North Carolina. And man, you want to talk about somebody that runs a nice team, and oh my God, that would be cool. Maybe that would be something for loans we could get on Put Up or Shut Up. Let us get 2 late models and drive around the racetrack or something. I don't know.
2 drag racers in dirt modifieds or late models or whatever. And
that would be cool.
Racers and rental cars out there doing their thing. I like it.
I'm in.
Yeah, but like I said, thank you, Don, for everything, and thank you, Voice America, for letting us do this, and dragstersforsale.com and racepack.com. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll be driving around in a rental car at some point in time, maybe next week too. So, Don,
for sure.
I will see you then.
All right, my friend. Peace.
Later.
Let's put it